Hi, today I'd just like to talk to you about how to become a feedback superstar. So we're told that feedback is a gift, but this statement is only true if feedback is delivered expertly. Otherwise, feedback can be devastating, it can be destructive, and it can be difficult for everybody. So if you're in a job that has anything to do with people, then you are going to have to give feedback at some point in your life. And because feedback is developmental, you will have to talk about performance improvement on the likelihood it would be. So this means that it's highly probable that it's going to be emotive for the person receiving the feedback as well as you. And when feedback goes wrong, it can go really, really wrong, with high emotional, personal attacks, uncomfortable silences, and even more uncomfortable shouting matches. And worst of all, you have the conversation and then there's no positive change at all anyway after it, which is the whole point of having a feedback conversation. Yet when it goes right, it can be challenging, but it can also be positive. It's honest, it's focused, and people improve for the right reasons. So if you have to give feedback in your job and you want to nail it, then I've got some ideas about how to get it right more often than not. Idea number one, if you need to give good feedback, would be preparation. The single biggest reason for giving feedback and why it fails is the lack of preparation, in my experience. We all have this idea of what we want to say, and then we get into the heat of the moment and we lose track of things and we say things we didn't mean or miss things out that we wanted to say. The more facts, evidence and practice you invest in before giving the feedback, the better the feedback will be received. So unless it's absolutely critical, never give feedback without ensuring that you're fully equipped to do so. So, decide on what you want your outcome to be, what your observations are, how you want to put the conversation together, and then actually practice it. Run through it with a friend or a colleague so that when it comes to the real event, you're ready, you're practiced, and you've gone through it. If you can put the preparation in, it will be worth it. Idea number two, be the adult. And what I mean by this is that in almost all feedback situations, there are going to be emotions generated. And when people feel emotional, it can often lead to behaviours that they wouldn't normally show. And when this happens, emotions are high, it can be a catalyst for us to say things we didn't mean, or attack, or cry, or whatever it would be, and it turns into, rather than a feedback session that's productive and changes behaviour, it turns into a catcalling event. It's important to understand that there probably is going to be an emotional response, and sometimes like a childlike response from the people that you're giving feedback to. And your job is to be patient and to respond in a calm, mindful manner at all times, rather than reacting in the way that they're reacting. So it's important for you to kind of have the intention of being the adult, being calm, being mindful, and making sure that you are in control of your behaviours and your emotions, because you can't control the person's emotions that you're giving the feedback to, but you can control yours. And if you control yours, then you can control the tone of the feedback session. Idea number three, set a vision for the future. People are more likely to respond to feedback if they feel they are supported on their development, supported on the journey, so to speak. And if they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, then they'll be more engaged in getting to that end of the tunnel. So this is why having a vision is so important. And to do that in a collaborative way. So as a leader, as a person who's giving the feedback, you've got to create that environment for success. You've got to create that environment for feedback to have its power. So share the journey, share the success, share that clear vision, that you're on that journey with them and success is where you're going. And you'll have much more chance of getting in an engaged person at the end of the feedback. Final idea, use coaching. So when you decide what the problem is and what the impact on that has been and what the good future looks like, how it's going to be achieved is a choice for the person who's received the feedback. And so in this, as a leader then, you've been very clear on the feedback of what's happened and what the impact has had and what good needs to look like. How they then achieve that is up to that person. So you've got to ask some questions. So, how are we going to achieve that? what is the first step, and so on and so forth. Because if you can allow that person to have their decision on how they are going to become successful towards that vision that you've created, it becomes their idea, it becomes their choice, and that means they are more engaged and more determined and more bought in to moving forward with that behaviour. So allowing your feedback to work, you've got to create this sense of autonomy, this sense of choice in regards to how people move forward. So it's that element of being able to put coaching into that last part of how they're going to step forward, ask them and put it in their hands. If you can apply those ideas, your ability to give feedback and the response that you get will vastly improve. Good luck.